This guy brings me back, and he had this monster 9-point. I'm like, where'd you shoot it? He literally, he was within 5 yards of the pin that I put down, had sat there, shot that buck. All right, welcome to another episode of the Fair Chase podcast. I am coming to you from very cold Michigan. It's been like a cold snap here. Has it been cold by you, Kenneth?
Yeah, it's been pretty chilly. Tomorrow morning's gonna be -3. 2 days ago it was like -18. So
Dude, you hate to see that.
it's been a bit chilly, but we're surviving, still alive, so that's a plus.
Yeah, dude. We had talked this week, but we're just getting back from a buffalo hunt in South Dakota, and like we were hunting in the -30s, well, with wind chill. So I don't remember what the actual temperature was, but the feel was in the -30s, and like I don't know, it's like not full on frostbite, obviously, but it's like whatever before that is, and a couple of my fingers are like I can't hardly touch anything. I got burns on them,
Yep. Yeah, your fingers are feeling real hot.
real hot, and
Yeah.
like needles, So
Yeah.
I don't know. We got a bite from though, so I really can't complain. I did debate cutting him open and crawling in its chest, Star Wars style.
This first style or what is it, the Revenant when you crawl?
Yeah. Revenant, yeah, that's true. Yes. I didn't get to that. Someday I'll be in that situation and I'll be ready and willing.
That'd be pretty cool.
Everybody will be like, dude, we could just have made a fire as I'm crawling into this carcass, I'm like, no, you guys have the fire. I got, I'll do this. It's just a dream.
I got this.
So, I've got Kenneth Thrall here. We've become good buddies. We've shared some laughs on islands in Wisconsin this year. So we had talked about doing a podcast and maybe getting in some other hunts going this year. Figured I'd have you on. So how are you? What have you been up to?
Doing pretty good. Working at Kifaru, so it's winter time, which we go right into our show season. The last 2 weeks I was gone at Dallas Safari Club at first, and then went to Sheep Show, which is good. It's just a lot of traveling, and a lot of talking to people. So, yeah, it's been good interacting during the shows, and it kind of keeps, we're in Wyoming, so the winters here are a bit rough at times. But
Yeah.
I'm not typically here a whole lot during the winter, so keeps your brain moving and stuff. But yeah, no, we're right in full-fledged into show season. Today's January 22nd, and I think our next show's not till Western Hunt Expo. It's like around the 14th of February. So,
Nice.
yep. Yeah, so got a little time period to hang out here, which is actually kind of nice. So,
Yeah, just like, what do you do anything what do you do in the winter out there in Wyoming? What do you got going on?
yeah, there's not a whole lot. I guess you could be shooting ducks right now. That's going to end around January 31st, but in December we went out and did some duck hunts, which I like. Over here where we're at in central Wyoming, it's not the duck mecca of like where I grew up in Western Oregon and hunting the Pacific Flyway. But you can get into good pockets of birds. Like a good solid like mallard migration comes through here. So, yeah, we went out twice and limited out twice, but definitely not that huge flyway of the Pacific Northwest where it's just hundreds of ducks coming in. But yeah, it was good. You could do that. If you're into like, I'm not really into it a whole lot. It's like snowmobiling and stuff like that. That'd be the best way to probably pass your winter by.
Yeah, cruise around. Ice fish, man?
No, which I like is weird. Like in a sense, I'm not really a big fisherman just in general.
Right.
I used to be really into it. Like in Oregon, like bass fishing. Got super heavy into that. But since I moved to Wyoming, which is ironically one of the best, fly fishing, states in the West. I don't fly fish at all. Like if I go and fish, I'll throw on a spinner and like a, Panther Martin and just start hammering them. But
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
oh yeah, no, I'm not there to mess around. I'm there to catch fish.
You dance,
Yeah,
that's
fair. Yeah, look like Will Ferrell and the whoever on his back. But no, I'll go fish occasionally, like during the summer and stuff. But ice fishing, I just have not invested my time into that, I guess. It's fun. It's fun when you're catching them. It's kind of not when you're sitting there in the cold and not catching anything. Then that's where I'm like, yeah, the house kind of seems pretty nice in a book. But
right, just hang out inside. Yeah, I never really liked it. growing up. Like, I would do it occasionally. I didn't really know what was going on. Like, I've liked it more now, but it's more just like to hang out with the boys on the ice as opposed to really anything else. It's just time to go outside.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe you catch some perch or whatever, panfish. But although I had seen, I've never tried it, but that's where you cut a bigger hole and you throw out a lure and try to see deer pike. Like, I would love to try that.
Yeah, that looks pretty fun. Like I'd like to throw a spear through anything. So
True. This episode is brought to you by 2O Gear, innovators in technical hunting clothing. 2O is a newer company. It's based right here in Michigan, and whether you're hunting elk in the mountains or chasing antelope in the plains or traipsing through swamps after that ruddy buck, 2O has you covered with premium jackets and pants, merino wool layers, everything you could possibly need to stay comfortable in the woods. Their products are engineered for functionality and durability, ensuring you stay protected in any conditions. Plus, their camo is really effective. We're big fans. So don't take our word for it, though. Go to 2ogear.com and check it out.
if there's a pike there, I'll send a spear through it.
I'll spear just about anything,
If it's there and it's legal, I'm spearing it. But but to pay like anything in any life, if you're trying to be a passion for something, it's going to be pretty expensive. So like those ice huts or whatever and all that. I mean, I'd rather spend that money on tags for the fall and just
Well, and
what I can get for hunting.
you're the kind of guy who uses a lot of tags in the year. Like, what was your year count last year? Like, what kind of did you do?
Yeah, so the tags I had last year, all my Wyoming tags, living in Wyoming, we have the plethora of general tags for a resident. So all my Wyoming tags, which is elk, deer, and antelope, some cow tags too in there. I drew a Montana deer tag, and then Idaho, I got a Idaho deer tag. We went to Wisconsin, and then I had a Nebraska tag as well. I didn't get to spend much time there, but uh whatever I can find, and if it works within there. Like the year prior, I had Wyoming tags. I had elk and deer in Montana, an Idaho deer tag, an Arizona elk tag. Um, just wherever I can pick something up. Relatively easy. Like the Arizona tag was unexpected. Like I just put in first year drew. But yeah, I kind of plan it out in a way because like I don't plan to draw Montana this year. I plan to draw it next year as the combo because last year I just applied as a deer tag and got it with 40%. But it just depends on year to year. This year I really want to tackle Wyoming in some of those hunts. One of my brothers is going to draw Wyoming for elk and deer, so I'll kind of mainly focus on that, which is going to be fun. But I already got an Idaho deer tag this year, and whatever comes up, you know what I mean? So just kind of not really a full set strategy, but I always want to have a certain amount of tags in my pocket during certain months. Yeah, like my September is Wyoming, and that's all I'm gonna really focus on. And then November and October is when I'll try to get hunts out of states because that's when Wyoming kind of peters off with any sort of hunts.
We'll be doing another deer hunt.
Yes, that's what my goal is. I want to do another deer hunt.
That was real fun.
Yeah, dude, it was a blast. Like, and I'd like to do another deer hunt for whitetails. Something I've never, I've hunted mountain whitetails in Idaho and Montana, and it's just a different ball game. Like I'm hunting those like I would a mule deer, like a blacktail. But setting up stands and trying to hunt a deer that's actually pretty intelligent, it was outsmarting me for a while. Like I was like, I don't even know how. That's when I really noticed it because each night we were really checking the wind, and I'm like, when I go elk hunt, I already know the thermals, coming up. They're the same. Like, yeah, they're the same every time. So it's like, all right, like I would never look at thermals, or the wind the night before in Western hunting at all. But when you're sitting there in camp before we go to sleep and we're checking the wind, like, oh, maybe we should come from this way, and it changes every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was blowing my mind. And then how you set up the stands and stuff, it's definitely very strategic.
Oh man,
yeah.
The night before a hunt, like especially you're a couple nights in, we'll talk, make a plan, and then I'll just rub on my phone looking at Onyx like for another hour in bed after we're all laying in our tents. Like,
Yeah.
that the like mental mind, like the mind games that you have to like deal with. It's like, well, what if I go there and this doesn't work? And man, Yeah, well, I'll get into that when we get talking about
Yeah.
this Wisconsin hunt. But like, I had that play out in a weird way. But yeah, so we got together this year and decided we are going to do this Wisconsin island hunt with Jared and Isaac, and we brought Jordan, our camera guy, and like the idea was we would put out boats on this river, stay on these islands, and then hunt along the shore where you really couldn't access it from anywhere but the water. And ideally, you find bucks cruising along the river edge, and hunting. So we did that right during the rut. You flew out, and we just kind of met up actually on the, like, you met us literally out on the island.
Yeah. In the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night. Well, there was some gas situation. Wasn't that the first night? Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first night we Isaac and I forgot the gas tank. I had no idea. I guess Isaac did. But
He did it more than once actually on this trip.
yeah.
No.
So we're going out there and he's like, yeah, he forgot the gas, and we got halfway there maybe, and ran out of gas, so we were just floating. And you guys had to come to the rescue. I think James and Jordan came.
Yeah, yeah, Jared's like, well,
Yeah.
let's go up. I'm like, all right, you can, because it was his boat, his dad's boat. I'm like, you can go up. I'm like, just drop me off. I'm gonna hunt. So I hunted a little bit, just kind of did a little scouting around while you guys cruised up. And
Yeah.
sure enough, I could hear you kind of buzzing down as I'm sitting out in the woods. I'm like, all right, time to head back and see what those boys are up to.
See what they're doing. Yeah. It was yeah, so it was quite the fiasco right off the bat. But at the same time, it's hunting, dude. Like anything can happen. So I'm just like having a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we ended up getting there, set up the shelters and stuff. Remember we had the debacle with the water. Uh, yeah, we thought they were gonna open the dam, or yeah,
Yeah, it was like we couldn't figure out where on the schedule, like what the dam schedule was.
yeah,
Like, were they gonna release a bunch of water and like our stuff was all gonna float away? Are we cool? So like we kept putting sticks to monitor it. Sometimes it'd go high and sometimes it'd go low.
yeah. It was back and forth, but it kind of had us a little sketched out for a set. To like, well, we're gonna have to definitely either get back into the trees more or just bomb out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we went that next day. We split up, which was a pretty action packed day in general. I think you guys got into them.
Yeah.
Isaac and I did too. But that was my first introduction into that whitetail kind of setup, because Isaac's going through. I'm thinking like any tree's good. I'm like, yeah, this thing looks great to go sit up in. Yeah, and he's like, no, you want to be in on these different corridors, especially where the wind's coming from.
Yeah.
That spot was definitely different, kind of hard, because there was no set like trails. At least I never saw any, or Isaac and I didn't. So the deer were pretty sporadic, kind of just moving wherever they wanted to. So trying to catch them in the right spot, especially in a stand, was one thing. So I think what you guys were doing was hunting them from the ground, which is probably the best way to hunt that terrain.
OnX is the title sponsor of our podcast here at the Fair Chase, and it's a must-have app for all of us who love to explore the outdoors. Whether you're hunting or hiking or fly fishing, OnX gives you detailed, accurate maps right at your fingertips. With property boundaries, topographical features, and trail data, you'll always know where you are and where you're headed. You'll also likely be able to figure out where that big buck is headed to. Plus, their offline maps mean you're covered even in the most remote locations. OnX is the ultimate tool for outdoor navigation, making every adventure safer and more enjoyable. Download OnX today and explore with confidence.
Yeah, so for that first day, usually right when we first start out for these kind of places, I'm like, man, because like you said, you just don't know, like, is there trails or like where are they going? So like that first day, I kind of just still hunted around. I got into I think like a small buck and saw some deer, and like I did find some guy's stand out there, old one. And Jared and Jordan so Jordan was filming Jared, and like they land on this the side of the river, and actually what we ended up finding later is like a lot of these bucks were bedding like right on the edge, so they get set up and like they're kind of just moving around, just trying to see what is going on. And like Jordan's like, dude, look, and they see right off the bat like a nut, like wide buck. And so they kind of hunker down and it moves off. It pulls in another buck with it. And they're so like the rut, it's like they got right into that one of those like rut hot spots where deer are just, there's a bunch of activity. So they watch that and they turn and they notice there's another buck behind them bedded right along the river. So Jordan kind of films Jared crawling up and sneaking up to this deer, and kind of grunts it in from the ground in the grass. It was actually bedded tending a doe. Stands up, he puts an arrow into it. Like that was the first day we were out.
Yeah,
First
right
morning. Yeah. And so, I get a phone call from him. He's, dropping a bunch of 4-letter words, all excited, just pumping his fist. I hightailed over there that morning, and that from where I was, I got into I could have shot a doe on the walk over, 15 different turkeys along the way. Like that morning there was a good pocket there. Get over there and we start tracking it, and we're based on where he told me he hit it, and he was shooting one of those mega meats. I'm like, usually that thing's dead within 75 yards. So I'm like, as we're trailing it, I'm trying to get up high and just see down because I'm expecting to see this buck laying there. We ended up tracking it like all morning.
Yeah. It was a long time. You guys tracked that.
Freaking all morning. And like, I kind of had to, I didn't want to say it to Jared, but like, you get outside of that 70-yard bubble, 5-yard bubble, and it's like the blood's a little slower. And you're like, wait, where did you say you hit it? Oh, a little high. And it's like, oh, I know where this is headed,
Yes.
But we're going to look because you got to.
You have to.
You have to. And never found. He was pretty bummed up. He called one of those tracking dogs too, even, and the guy's like, no, I'm not, because it's good. I just don't think he wanted to hop on the river,
Probably not. I mean, I wouldn't have either. You're going to be hitting sandbars the whole time.
Holy cow. Barked once.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how we started out, and like it was just a whole week of that kind of thing.
Yep. Especially on that that island, kind of couldn't really figure it out, but we ended up moving to a different area, and that area was pretty hot. Like there was bucks everywhere, moving quite a bit. And that one you could pinpoint, at least with trails, a lot easier, and kind of their corridors and stuff like that. Because that's when we got to the next spot. That's where Isaac and I split up. Which I used your Insta 360 cam. That thing's sweet. I need to get one.
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah, super easy to use. But Isaac hunted from the ground, and he actually almost shot. I think that was the first morning we hunted there. He almost shot a really big buck from the ground. Had him at 70, but the buck wouldn't stop. Yep. And then I got up in a tree, which for me, like, I wanted to do what Isaac was doing, right? Like I'm like he's running around, hunting from the ground, moving, but I'm like I've never done this before. Setting up in a tree stand, like I want to see how it goes. And I set up in one spot, and Isaac actually came through that way, so we talked for a little bit. And he said he saw that big buck, and he's like, "You should stay in the stand, like bucks are moving." And got back in, sat there for a while, and I had a little buck come by, probably 60 yards out. Just couldn't get it, shot through through the trees. And after a while, at least my mind finally was like, "Hey, you need to move." I wanted to move up the ridge a little bit more, kind of closer. You hunted that night before and saw that big buck come up that drainage part.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to get to the edge of that. And so I moved up, got set up. After a while, like I went to the other ridge, looked at it, and then went back and got set up probably 100, 125 yards from where I was set up before, just up the ridge. And got set up in the tree. And then not 5 minutes later, I hear a deer coming down the ridge, just walking. And finally see it, and it's a nice 8-point coming right down, and I'm like, this is it, and so I turn the camera on, and there's 2 trails coming straight down below me, and I'm like, if he comes right down below me, I'm gonna shoot him like 20 yards right in the chest. But he started to peel to my right, to my right, and there's one window where I had 30 yards, like I ranged a stump perfect, this trail comes right through. He's slowly moving, he's kind of eating a little bit, but put his head down to sniff, and you can see it in the video, like deer's walking right to that opening. So I pulled back, and he's still walking. Finally, the wind just starts swirling, and it's swirling pretty good. And he picks up his head and he's sniffing, and then he kind of looks up towards the tree, sniffs again, looks up, and then he's starting to turn, like he's fully blocked by a tree right now, and he's starting to turn wheel back to where he came from. So he's turning, and I'm like, there's one window I could possibly fit it through, and like even the shot in the video, everything looks good. Shot breaks off, and you can hear it hit his stick and then hit his body, which I didn't know where it hit him at first. I'm like, I know I hit him, but the hitting that stick really worried me. Because if it deflected left, then it's right in his shoulder. If it deflected right, it's going to be probably right in his guts. We'll find him if it hit him in the guts, because shooting I shooting a 2-inch sever, and uh, waited for Isaac. He came by. We looked at the video a little bit, couldn't really tell, but we started tracking that deer, and it for sure deflected him right in the shoulder. Like the penetration was like maybe that much, and we followed it for 300 yards, which I'm surprised we even tracked it for that far. We only found like enough blood to fill up a shot glass, like maybe even that. But at the end of the day, it's like I've had such a good run of just killing stuff, constantly, never really having, that kind of a thing, like deflections and stuff like that. And it happens. It happened, when I was real young, like wounded a big bull. But yeah, wounded that deer, and he's still alive, like no doubt. He's never stopped. Yep, he ran off like fine. So when he ran off, I'm like, that's not a good sign. Yeah. He's jumping, just going, and he hauled out of there, and I'm like, if I hit him good, he probably would have piled up on that ridge. But it is what it is. It was still like a crazy experience because I was all by myself, and I decided to sit in that, like that kind of almost worked out. If the wind didn't swirl and everything, he would have came perfect. But that was still like a confirmation of like this is fun,
Oh, dude.
Yeah, setting it up, everything works out in that kind of way. Like it would be way more rewarding if it fully worked out. But in a sense, I got a shot on a big buck, and it was crazy. Deer's just coming down the ridge, just walking down. Yeah,
it always happens. Like, I mean, it's to leave the state to go to a place you've never been, never scouted, and just go out and to get into a buck. Like we did a couple times. Like that's saying something. And then from there, it's just that's success in itself. But like that's how so many hunts go. Where it's just like one little thing, or like these deer, especially in the rut, they're moving so much. It's like it has to happen perfect a lot of times for it to work out.
Yeah, and that's what I definitely started to recognize, that it really needed to be perfect scenario and everything like that. Like the last day, Isaac and I went to another spot. He had private, and I set up on the far side of the field. He set down lower. And last morning, like, I mean, I'm flying out in a couple hours. We're like, let's just last ditch effort. And I rattled, at one point just started rattling. And I set the antlers down and kind of sat there for like 5 minutes. And I looked over to my left, and here's a big buck, biggest buck I saw on the whole trip, just coming down this one trail behind me. But as I figured out, he's trying to get my wind before he looked out and came out into that field where I was rattling. Because he came down, got right on my wind trail, and he did the same thing, like stuck his nose up, looked up at the tree, sniffed again, looked at the tree, but he didn't, like, he literally just turned around and walked straight away.
Yeah.
Like never made a scene or anything like that. He just turned around and peaced out. He wasn't having it. But yeah, that was something I recognized, because like big buck, he's coming to get your wind, before he's going to come.
Right. They J hooked in.
Yep. Yeah. So he came around and got the wind. He's like, yeah, it's not no $2 fighting, that's when I was like, man, this is crazy. Like he didn't just come running in like you think, you watch on Primo's videos or something like that.
Yeah, they run in like idiots, and I mean, sometimes, almost never.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like an elk. Like,
yeah,
how many times I've called bulls where they're hooking to get my wind. It's just the same thing. Like I had 2 bulls do that to me this year. Like full on, they just would not come in, and they're bugling, but deer don't bugle, so you don't know. But they just come and loop your wind, J hook you, and just try to take out that variable. Like sometimes you can still fool them, just keep moving with them, try to keep the wind off of them. But when you're in a tree, you can't do anything. Like you're stuck. So
no, that's I love early season, mid season, I'm like almost always tree unless it's like a situation where a ground blind makes sense. But
yeah,
a lot of times during the rut, it's really hard for me to stay. I know there's so many advantages to being in a tree, right? Because you can see a lot and you get better shots, and they aren't seeing you and everything else.
Yeah.
but it's so hard for me to do it because there's so many times in the rut where it's like something happens and then you got to move, and like sometimes you're moving when they're moving and you're like actually sort of putting a stalk on it because of just how the situation is, especially if they're trying to J hook you or whatever. Um, that the ground is sometimes in the rut like the way to go. So it's like a weird mix, especially because I'm like a lot of times I'll be sitting in my stand in the rut and it's like I feel like I need to get down and like shake things up a little bit down there.
Yeah. Just try something different. Yeah. Yeah. But no, it's definitely been on my mind all winter after that. I'm like, man, I really, I want to get back and try to little redemption too in the whitetail woods, but kind of learn more, you know what I mean? Because Isaac was talking about how bucks come, if there's a field and then they're going to come along that edge, especially if the wind's coming down, and kind of just loop through, just set and check that whole field. And then if it's on a ridge, especially, you know what I mean? They'll just come down, loop underneath it. Which that was like, he literally said that. And then we get up in the tree and not a minute later, like we're not even fully set in the tree. And here comes a buck doing it.
Well, it's like you think about it, it's like totally common sense. Like when you see it happen, it's like, well, of course they would do that.
Yep.
But like so much of hunting is like thinking that way so that you're prepared for when it inevitably happens.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with like high country mule deer, sitting there, they have their set routines and they do things purposely.
Yeah.
And every kind of buck is a little bit different, but I've sat there long enough to figure out like this deer's doing this because of this reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Moving where they're going to bed. Some of them will bed in this kind of hillside. It's because they can get the right wind and all that stuff to be able to survive. Some of them will go over the backside and bed on the backside because it's more cover and, they feel more protected. But yeah, it's that whole thing of just like, I never whitetail hunted. I'm like, it's kind of, it is what it is. Like, West is king. Uh, and like, I still like, I'll hunt mule deer till the day I die. It's going to be the best thing ever. But I still want to like in that November, rut time, I want to try to see if I can shoot a nice whitetail and stuff like that. It's definitely very intriguing.
I've got some plans for us that I'm working on. So yeah, stay tuned. I've been ever since then, it's been stuck in my craw too.
Yep. We all need some redemption.
We definitely do. Especially because you guys got shots. I saw that big buck and like you were talking about coming up the draw. So I'm sitting there looking down a draw that comes up and I'm expecting him to be bedded kind of below me, coming up to the field behind me at night. And so I'm sitting there and like at first I had a doe come from behind me. Somehow came at an angle where my wind was going up, and thankfully she kind of came to my side, and she like definitely, I think she initially caught my wind a little bit or something. She came in kind of, a little bit perked up, but like didn't really see me, didn't do anything. So just kind of walked through, and like 10 minutes later, this buck comes in, and at first he's walking towards me, and I was talking about this with somebody else this week. Like, when you're hunting, you're like, oh, it's about to happen. It's like your brain is like, oh, this is about to go down. So I'm like ready to go. And he just like happens so many times with whitetails. Like the last second, he's like, I'll just go this way.
Yeah.
And just one turn, and he's a 60-yard shot, which, people give you the business for saying it, but in the right conditions, I would take that shot on even on a whitetail if I get good clear. What I found with the whitetail, and I'll just preface this, and maybe people would disagree. There's a range where they hear you. It's like you're comparing how much they can hear you with how long the arrow takes to get there and how far away it is. So like there's like the 30 to 40, 30 to 40 yard range can sometimes be harder than a longer range because when they crouch to jump to run, they people think they like duck the arrow, but that's just them crouching down to push off. And so like what I've found is that distance they go up and down and up again, at 30 yards, like you'll hit them high, but like 40 yards or whatever, like it actually will hit them back on because they're back up again.
Yeah.
And like 60 yards, a lot of times they can't hear you as well. And those shots are easier. And so it's just like all that plays into that. But anyways, this buck comes through and it's like 60 yards, like trying to get a shot. Couldn't have a window. I tried every grunt I knew. Every sound I could make to get him to come in, and he wasn't even cruising. He was just kind of walking, eating like nothing. Like it wasn't even the rut,
Yeah.
And I'm grunting. I see him and I'm grunting. I know he can hear me. And he's just not doing anything. Finally, I didn't have one of those cans, like those leaf cans, so I'm doing it in my mouth and stuff,
Yeah.
which I've had work before, and he just didn't care and kept walking. So I mean
Yeah.
that is whitetail.
Yeah. It seemed like be the case because like we'd see bucks that were rutting hard, like hardest buck could rut, and then some other deer. Like the buck I shot, I don't even think he was really cruising at all. Like before he came through, he was just eating on a tree. Like he wasn't really like, running around or like frantically looking at the ground. He was just kind of just walking, like feeding in the leaves and stuff. Like I don't think he was really pushing like the buck that Isaac saw early that morning that was dogging a doe the whole valley, like he was chasing her nonstop.
Yeah. Well, it was crazy. Like during the week, like we would like hop in the car and cruise and like look for, and dude, like we saw half a dozen bucks on the side of the road, bedded down somewhere. Like we saw so many places, and it's like, all right, you try to like get permission. I knocked on a door when we were out there, couldn't get anybody to answer. I had a buck right in like their back pasture, and like I couldn't get. We drove up, and I'm like running up trying to get. So it's like, however, like by hook or crook, like you're trying to make something happen and
trying to get some number, especially during that time. Like we had not a whole lot of public land to hunt, but it's just whatever could work. I mean, that's one thing over here, like in Wyoming or out west, you don't have to go knock on doors. You can just go hunt vast lands of public, you know what I mean? And but over there it's like knocking on doors is definitely more of an effective tactic than trying to hunt on public, you know what I mean? Because eventually one can land and then you can have it.
they just walk out.
Yeah,
Walk out. One was like, dude, I'm like, dude, we could, locate this thing. All right, cruise up. I'm hopping out, but try to shoot it, but never convey. I will say I hate knocking on doors. I feel like someone's going to open and like the door blast me through, the screen door or the shotgun or something like that in some of these places.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like I'm very much not so. It's ironic with my job and going to shows and stuff, like being social, but I'm not really a social person. So like, like going to knock on a door, I do not want to do that whatsoever. No. I do not. Like that's the last thing I want to do. I'll hunt, freaking 2 acres of public land. It's I can't go knock on the door.
Yeah, that's how Jared is. It's like that's why I'm always the designated asker. I just tell him I think that part of my brain has died, so I don't feel any remorse or nothing to it. Yeah, I've got no shame apparently anymore. No, it'll be good. Yeah, we'll do it again. It was definitely a good. It was fun. It was fun to be there with you to see you just kind of experience it and talk through stuff that we've been doing forever. Because like you said, a lot of people think like, oh, Western hunting is like all these huge adventures and like you can't really get that with whitetail and it's just kind of whatever.
Yeah. You can make an adventure out of it. I mean, ours was a full adventure. We were sleeping in tents on campgrounds. Yeah. So like you can make whatever out of it, which is cool because that kind of leads into, what in the future I could do with whitetails. Like it's not that hard to just go drive to a state and do what we just did, you know what I mean? Or fly into it and rent something. But if you wanted to just do it like you would a Western style hunt, like it's, Wisconsin or any of these other states, like, they have over the counter tags. So you can just go there and buy a tag, and some of them are cheaper than a West mule deer tag would be. Total, even a West, like I just spent, gosh, I don't know, had to be close to like $600 on a Idaho deer tag for a deer, you know what I mean? And then what is it in Wisconsin? $300 or something like that.
I thought it was 150.
150 or 200. I think it might have.
Yeah, I forgot. They all run together.
But if it's your first year hunting there, because it was my first year hunting in Wisconsin, it was only $100.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I don't take advantage of it, but I still had, the $100 deer tag for a non-resident. That's pretty good deal. But I think majority of those states really do that. Besides, obviously, the big ones like Iowa and Kansas.
Yeah.
But some of those neighboring states, you can just get boom over the counter and just go start hunting. So it's been intriguing on my mind in a sense of doing those type of hunts, and and we could do one again this year just to pick a place and just go. I think that's going to be fun, and I've been like diving into it too, like looking at what stands I should get and like all this stuff.
Oh yeah, we should talk. Yeah.
Yes, let's talk because I've been full fledged into it because I want to get a stand. And here in Wyoming, you get your general deer tag, which is just straight general. but then you can get a type 3 deer tag, which the type 3 is a whitetail buck tag. So you can shoot two bucks in a year, either mule deer or whitetail or two whitetails. But like I have a buddy here, Towson, he has some property up in Cody that we can go hunt, and it's full cottonwood bottoms, just like, like
There we
that.
go.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna take that and go hunt that, and if I don't kill mule deer in the high country this year, I can go shoot 2 bucks there because it's a general, and then you're type 3. So I've been kind of like getting a little bit excited about that, and I'm like, if I have a mobile stand set up, then I could just hunt that and then take it wherever I wanted, And growing up in Oregon and hunting here, it's like a stand I would never use or never thought about getting,
Right.
So it's a whole new ball game that I'm kind of excited to dive into.
Well, you throw it in something like, and I had given we did a giveaway and I got rid of my Striker XL.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you throw a striker in your pack. You throw like your, I like the tree saddle set up, and you can throw that in there. You can go out, shoot a deer, pack it out with your stand still on your back and all your stuff, and bring it back in. Like, it's super doable.
Oh yeah, super doable, and it's fun. I mean, it doesn't take freaking 5 minutes to set that thing up. Even just a stand, like just put the sticks on, throw the stand up, boom, you're in the tree. Yeah, it's like that's what I didn't realize. I'm like, this is gonna take forever. But after doing it however many times, I'm like, I could easily take this, tear it down, go do another tree pretty quickly. So that was pretty intriguing to me. I'm like, I always thought it was just a whole process, but
Yeah, no, it's not too bad. The process, and like I was saying before, is like, for me at least, it's like the anxiety of at night, like, where am I going in the morning? And like, big example, I mentioned this earlier, like the last day, I'm looking, I'm like, man, I think this is the spot. And I had told you guys all, I'm like, this is where I'm going. It's like right off this field, and it's kind of weirdly by camp, but like to get there, you have to drive like way around to get into this area. So we get all the way there in the morning, and I'm just getting out of the truck, and this other car comes up, and it's all these guys from I feel like, was it Indonesia? I don't know, like a South Pacific country.
Yep.
And we get talking to them, and this guy's like, "Oh, I hunt here all the time. I'm just headed up to this spot," and he like points on Onyx exactly where I was headed. And I'm like,
yeah.
And I usually, when that happens, for whatever reason, I'm always like, hey, I'm not gonna be that guy. You can take it, whatever. So we go. I try to adjust at that point after having, like, in my mind, committed to the spot. To this, had one of the most awful mornings in that I find a spot, and I'm like, oh, I should be able to walk in there, and I am like swimming through briars and prickers, and like, dude, it's awful. And I finally get there, and it's so overgrown compared to what I thought it was. Like, if any deer, and there was some really good buck sign in there, but like, I'm like 4 or 5 yards off of where they would move through, and it's like the only spot so I can sit. So I'm like, this sucks. I sit there. Finally, I'm like, I'm getting out. I'm gonna head up to this really high point where I can actually see where Jared and Jordan are hunting, and I'm gonna glass there. I'm gonna just see what comes their way and just stay out of the way. So we do that. Didn't see anything that morning. I'm beat. Like, I'm kind of crabby about it. I get back to my stand, and those guys are just coming out, or they're just like by their truck when we walk up. I'm like, hey guys, how you doing? They're like, good. They're like, they didn't say anything at first. He's like, hey, check out what we got. And this guy brings me back, and he had this monster 9-point. I'm like, where'd you shoot it? He literally, he was within 5 yards of the pin that I put down, had sat there, shot that buck. And I'm like, frick, sometimes you're on a hunt, and it's like, it's clearly just not meant to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not going to happen, no matter how much I want it to. It's like, at that point, I'm like, I'm glad for him. They were super excited.
Yeah. But still, you're like, it'd been kind of nice.
It would have been really cool after that whole week. The whole week.
Yeah, punched in the face every day.
But that's what's fun about it, and that was cool to be there. Yeah, like I said, we'll have to get that going. Like, end of the year. We got spring too. Yep, to get through first. I'm just looking at turkey. I got to get a bear plan. Yeah, at some point together. And so, are you doing a lot of bear stuff this year?
Oh yeah. Bears are like my echelon of animals. It's mule deer, bears, and elk. So I love bears. They're so much fun. Like, I don't know what it is, and I don't know how, because I grew up in Oregon where there's bears plethora. Like there's so many bears. You can shoot 3 a year in Oregon. Um, and I don't know, it just was never really that appealing to me. Maybe it's just because there's so many. But coming out west, well, east of Oregon, but in the west of the mountains and stuff like that. I noticed those bear hunts you're hunting them like you would a mule deer, or just like you're hunting in the high mountains, mountain hunts, and you're backpacking in, several days, a lot of heavy weight, and trying to shoot a bear in these freaking steep, mountain goat country. It's been the last, 2 years, 3 years. It's been my highlight of this. Like I haven't hunted a turkey since I lived in Oregon, which was 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. Like it's just been straight bears. Like I'll go to Montana, go hunt bears there, come to Wyoming, hunt bears here. It's kind of my whole, I don't know, niche thing. Like I just like doing it.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Do you guys have, it's OTC for spring bears in Wyoming, right?
Yep. OTC pretty much everywhere, like OTC in Montana, OTC in Idaho. So it's not, so I'll have a Montana tag this year and a Wyoming tag again. Try to shoot 2 bears. I want to do a hunt of do the trifecta of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming.
That would be cool.
That would be fun. Like that'd be a whole, that'd be a cool series to do. Getting it dialed down pretty good, and especially in Montana and Wyoming. At least finding bears last year. I think I saw it's like 27 bears, 27 black bears in the spring. It was nuts, like hunt for myself and then helping some other people kill their first bears. And it was a fun spring. And I think this year is going to be a really good one again, because it hasn't been such a heavy winter. It's kind of equaling out to probably be about the same as last year. Yeah. Which is going to be good, because last year was crazy good, like very good melt off right off the bat. So those bears were coming out early. The year prior was so bad because it was such a hard winter that snow didn't melt off till like the middle of May.
Yeah. We struggled that year too.
Yep. It was just hard to find bears. They just weren't out because the weather was still even bad in the spring. But last year was really good. Like I shot a bear in April, up in Montana, and then killed a bear in Wyoming the first week in Wyoming. But yeah, I'm looking forward to bears. So if we can figure something out, that'd be awesome, dude. You'd have fun.
I did one it was 3 years ago in Montana, got one, and then I think that was the same year we did that Alaska trip, or maybe it was year. But that one was too. It was just like it was too early, or the spring was too late, or however you want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, dude, like bear, like you said, like the more I bear hunt, the more I love to bear hunt.
Yeah.
Like
it's definitely so different from anything else, because bears, I feel like they act a lot like humans would in a way.
Totally.
If it's raining or if it's bad weather, they're not going to be out. Yeah, I know, because it's like, I don't really need to be out today. So they're just going to raining or sleet the whole day. It's like they're going to be hunkered up just like I'm going to be. Occasionally you could catch them, out doing some weird things. But
well, because they also just do random stuff. It seems random.
It's extremely sporadic. Like you'll be like, why is that bear even there? Like there's no feed like on that. But they're still like, especially in that early spring is when I love to hunt them, because they're very predictable in that feed. Yep, the greenways are going to be on that south slopes, and they're going to be there, especially rocky, steep stuff. Ooh, you'll find them.
Yeah. But do you get any with your bow yet in the spring?
Yeah,
I've never done that.
I shot a few in Oregon. Biggest bear I've actually ever killed was a spring bear in Oregon with my bow. But out west, I don't know. I love shooting them with a rifle. Like drop a bomb by Ross Canyon. Yep. Yeah. I think in Wyoming it opens the 15th with your bow. So you can hunt in the April 15th with your bow, and then May 1st is when it starts with the rifle. Montana's April 15th with any weapon. So I have stalked a bear. I almost shot a bear 3 years ago. I actually passed it because it was so small. Yeah, I got super close, like right on top of him, like 10 yards above him, like on this rock cliff, and he's actually coming out of its den. And that kind of made me feel bad a little bit too.
Yeah,
it's a tiny bear, and I'm just like, it literally just woke up. And I pulled back on it, and I'm like, looking at like, this thing's tiny. Like we call those bears suitcase bears. Like they could fit in the suitcase. But I was looking at it and I'm like, I can't shoot it. And then it looked up at me all scared and then ran back in the hole. It was terrified. Yeah. But yeah, that was the last bear I stalked with a bow. Other than that, I've just been waxing them with a rifle the last few years.
I've got a few suitcase bear skulls
Yeah.
on my mantle. So yeah, I mean, I'm no stranger to the small bear.
Bears. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I think any bears, they're a predatory animal. Like if you're killing a bear, good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's
And they're delicious.
they are good, extremely good. If you get the fat too off them, you can render down the fat.
Oh yeah.
Cooking that in eggs is
So
extremely good.
dude,
Yeah.
you're totally right. Eggs, and they say it cures baldness, so I feel like we just get a big tin for Jared and just like
Oh yeah, just rub it on his head.
see if we can bring back his sweet flow.
We could bring him back. We need it. We need to kill more. We need to kill more bears for Jared.
Right, seriously.
Yeah.
Anything new going on with Kifaru? Anything cool? Anything coming out? You guys just did that fanny pack.
Yep. We just launched the fanny. It's been doing pretty well. It's very EDC specific, which I had on here, but it's very compact. So like subcompact pistols, like P365s. I have like an XD5 Springfield, so it's definitely perfect for that EDC travel and stuff like that. It's going to be a lot smaller than our Rogan. So it's been doing good. Especially, I think we launched like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that Rogan is an all-time fishing piece, by the way.
The Rogan's sweet. We did it with it in December. We took it out duck hunting, and it was perfect. Yeah, you had it on there, and then I had like a release pouch, for our shit. Had it onto the battle belt and had just shells in there, so I just staked it out of there. Yeah, it worked pretty good. We thought about doing a little video on it, but yeah, we're kind of still always developing new products like that. Like actually at Western Hunt, we just developed a new 44 mag. So it's
I've seen it.
Yep, 44 mag like 2.0. We're not going to launch it till after Western Hunt and stuff like that. But if you're at Western Hunt Expo, we're going to give one away a day. So get there, and it's pretty much just a revised 44 mag, really updated with laser cutting and MOLLE attachments, stuff like that. It's pretty sweet. We, using it in the fall and stuff like that. It was a nice pack. It was actually the first bag I ever bought from Kifaru. Kifaru was a 44 mag. So, yep. Yeah. So it's interesting, like developing the new one and stuff like that and testing it out. So that's going to be something on the docket, and we're always looking in the future, trying new stuff. And then I'm not sure, did you see that new yoke I had for the bino harness?
Yeah, Joe's got one, and I'm like wondering, what the situation is. Where I get to be out on one.
I know, right? You should hit up Kinsey, but Joe's got it. But we that'll probably be around the springtime.
Yeah.
We'll have those launching out. We kind of had two different types that we were working on, and finally got it to where we think it's going to be perfect. We spent more time testing this one than we have, in a long time. So want to make sure it's good before getting it to people, and they can buy the yoke themselves, just like individual purchase, and then put it on their existing bino bucket already. Yeah, so it's not like you have to get the whole kit again. Just get the harness and then put it on there. We also have our moose film is finished up, so that's going to be, dude. It's crazy. Like it's so good. Yeah, Roy Holford was our camera guy, and he's good, really good. Yeah, like him putting together and editing everything, I'm already like, man, if he can make me look good, then yeah, right. It's not he must be magical. But yeah, we got that film coming out on this Sunday. So what is that, 26th?
Yeah.
Yep. At least that's the plan. Like the 26th or within that time frame. So that's gonna be pretty sweet. And that was our Alaska hunt last year. I forgot to mention that one. States I hunted last year. Yeah, just a casual moose. But yeah, that was a crazy hunt. It's definitely my dream hunt, was that Alaskan moose hunt. So it fulfilled the dream, and we killed 2 big bulls in 8 days. So it's gonna be a cool film. So keep the lookout on that. But yeah, we're always working, developing new products, and making Kifaru what it is. We always want to make quality gear, and we'll test it to the nails to make sure it's getting to you guys as quality gear.
Yeah, we like that about you guys, and it's been fun doing that with you and doing these projects with you. We got the mountain lion one with you guys coming up here in the next few weeks.
That's gonna be cool.
I've just been working through. We did some interviews with some different biologists and houndsmen and stuff, and so I'm actually looking to release those full interviews because we're pulling chunks out for the film, but like there's so much good stuff in the interviews themselves, and I'm like, we should just do like behind the scenes and like let people hear what these people who are like living mountain lion, like what they're dealing with, what they do. So we're launching that out pretty soon too.
That'd be cool film. Yeah.
Well, cool. I appreciate you coming on, man. For everybody who is wondering, definitely check out Kifaru, like Kifaru.net. We post about them a lot, a partner of ours, and just have been using their stuff for years and loving it. So, Kenneth, thanks for coming on, and we'll do this again real soon. Appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, and appreciate you. We're gonna hunt some things this year.
Yeah, for sure.